जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna and welcome back. Thank you for joining. Today we are discussing verse number 12 of chapter number 2 from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And in chapter number 2, verse number 11, that is the previous verse, Krishna is chastising Arjuna by saying that while you are speaking like a learned man, or your bhasa is saying, bhashya se, is saying aswachan anvasochastvam pragyavadamscha bhashya se. So while your language or your bhasha is like a learned man, but you are mourning or you are lamenting for something which is not worthy of grief. And then Krishna says, those who are wise, they do not lament for either living or dead. So the word for living or dead, Krishna is using gatasun agatasumscha. And I thought that I discussed about it, but not in detail. So today I wanted to go into a little more detail about this term gatasun and agatasum. So this is a picture which will make it more clear what we discussed in the previous session about soul and body. So our body, which we see, which is called as a gross body. So that is made up of matter. It is material, what we can see, and it is made up of earth, water, fire, air and ether or space. So this is a physical body with senses. So senses are, there are 10 senses, 5 Gnanendriya and 5 Karmendriya. Karmendriya means working senses like hands, legs, all those things. And Gyanendriya is knowledge acquiring senses. So all this is the composition of our physical body, or all this makes our physical body. So that is our first level of existence, which is at a gross level, that is gross body. And then within the gross body is the subtle body. So this purple color thing you see is a subtle body within the gross body. So what is the subtle body? The subtle body consists of mind, intelligence and false ego. So we know about mind and you know about intelligence. So false ego is ahankar. Ahankar means it's a false identification. We identify ourselves with what we are not, and this is something we'll discuss later. But for right now you understand it as a false identity. And then the inner part of the body is the soul, which is the Atman, which is spiritual in nature. And the composition of soul, or we can, in terms of understanding, we can say the soul is composed of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, Ananda means bliss. So this is what the soul is. And the connection between the gross body and the soul is through the subtle body. So the link between gross body and the matter and the soul is, which is spiritual, is the subtle body. And the link between the gross body and the subtle body, means this and this, is the life air. So what is this life air? So life air is nothing but it is a network of air that are coordinating the bodily functions. So like we breathe, that is a part of it, which is oxygen. But also, movements happen in the body due to this kind of airs. So there are 5 types of airs: prana, apana, samana, vayana and udana. So these are the 5 different kinds of air which is existing in the body. So the connection between the gross and the subtle is through the life air. Now over here we see that our emotions are connected with the breathing. So somebody gets angry, they can breathe faster. And if you want to make that person calm down, then you have to make the person breathe slower. So breathing slower will reduce our anger or other kind of emotions. So we understand now that the connection between the physical level, which is the body, and the subtle body is the life air. So what happens during death? So during death, the soul, the subtle body, so the soul, the subtle body, and the life air, these three, all these three things actually goes from one body to another, and only the gross body remains. So this is the process of death. And one of the symptom of death is that the breathing has stopped, because the breathing, once when somebody is breathing, indicates that the life air is moving within the body. So the breathing stops indicates that the soul has left the body. So soul, when we goes from one body to another, it takes with itself the subtle body as well as the life air. So that's why in Hindi they say that when somebody is has died, then say that उसके प्राण निकल गए और प्राण चले गए, because prana has left. And then we see the example that Krishna, when he killed Putana, he actually sucked the life air from her body. So that is how Putana was killed. So in this verse, when we say Gatasun, Agatasuncho, so Gata Asun means it's a life air or life force. Gata means lost. So that object from which the life force has left means Gatasun, means the person is dead. And Agatasun means that from which the life force has not left. That means the object still have life in it. So this is the understanding of living. So Agatasun means somebody is living, and Gatasun means somebody is dead. So Krishna is saying that Gatasun Agatasunscha Nanu Sochanti Pandita. So Krishna is saying in this verse that those who are wise do not lament either for the living or for the dead. So this is the first instruction Krishna gives to Arjuna in verse number 11. And then in verse number 12, we see that Krishna is going to start speaking about the soul. So he says that, let's read the verse. Chapter 2, verse number 12. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaivam na bhavishyamah sarve vayam atah param. So Krishna is saying over here, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all the kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So here the first line is saying Natvevaham jatunasam. So Krishna says Natvevaham. So aham means Krishna is talking about himself. That he is saying that there was not a time when I did not exist. Right? Natvam means not you or you, and Neme Janadipa. Janadipa means all these kings. So all these kings and you also existed in the past. And then it is Nachaiva eva Nachaiva na bhavishyamah, means nor in the past or nor in the future we all of, and sarve vayam atah param, means all of us here cease to exist. So Krishna is telling or discussing in this particular verse a very significant point, and this verse has a great significance in terms of the overall message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we see that Arjuna's fear that all his relatives are going to die. So Krishna over here is telling to Arjuna that never was a time that they did not exist, nor in the future they will cease to exist. That means they are all eternal. So in a simple language, Krishna is telling Arjuna that in the past I was Krishna, in the present I am Krishna, and in the future I will be Krishna. And in the past you existed, in the present you exist as Arjuna, and in the future also you will exist in some other body. Right? So all these kings assembled here to fight were also individuals in the past and are individuals in the present and will continue to be individual in the future. In other words, we all are eternally spiritual individuals. So Krishna, before teaching about the science of soul in details, he is teaching about the eternality of the personality. So all of us are eternal persons. So before this life, I existed as a person, and after this life, also I will exist as a person. So this is the message of this particular verse. Now let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say in the purport. So Prabhupada says the first point Prabhupada talks about is the Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living entities. So in the Vedas, Prabhupada is saying in the Katha Upanishad as well as in the Setashvara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situation according to the individual work and the reaction of work. So the Lord is our maintainer. He maintains all the living entities. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by his plenary portions alive in the heart of living entities. So we see that in our body there is a soul, as well as to maintain that soul in the body, there is also a super soul. So Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, verse 15. He is saying the Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto. I am seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. So that is a Paramatma being talked over here by Srila Prabhupada. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also known by his plenary portion, is alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. So somebody who is learned, who is saintly, who is devotional, can see the Lord within. Within means within heart of every living entity. And without means here Krishna is actually out as a Supreme Lord, as Krishna himself. So he is without means he is outside as well as is inside. So somebody who knows or understands scripture understands this particular point, that that's the same Lord who is outside as well as he is inside. And this is a verse, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman Tam Atmastam Ye Anupashyanti Dhiras Tesham Shanti Saswati Netre Sam. So this is Katha Upanishad 2:13. Then Prabhupada brings the point that all living entities are eternal and individual. We are all individuals, and then we are also eternal as a soul. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all the person in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled in the battlefield are eternally individual beings. So this is our position. We are eternal soul and we are eternally individual. So what is the role of the Lord? And that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of individual living entities, both in the conditions and in their liberated situation. So condition situation means our situation in this material world. The Lord is our maintainer. And when we go to the spiritual world, when we are liberated, at that time also the Lord is maintaining. So he is the maintainer of both. And we all are individual soul. And that is here this term, this verse says, Eko means that one individual actually. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamans. That one eternal individual, which is Krishna, he is maintainer of innumerable living entities. So this is given in the Katha Upanishad. So that is the role of the Lord. The position of Krishna and all others. That's the third point. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associates, and all the king assembled there are individual eternal persons. So whoever was present in the battlefield and whoever we see or whoever we meet, they all are individuals and they are eternal individuals. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. So that is the importance of this verse. First, this verse tells us that we are eternally individual persons, and we were individual in the past, we were individual right now, and will be individual in the future. So we will eternally remain individual. We will not merge with anything else. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. So this is the point Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, that do not lament, because they are going to live. They may have, or they may attain a different body, but they themselves will never die. As a soul, they will remain eternally. So then, this particular verse is a very important verse to defeat the Mayavad philosophy. So what is this Mayavad philosophy? And in the purports, many a times we'll hear these terms Mayavad or Mayavadi theory. So what is the Mayavadi theory? So here this picture actually tells or talks about the Mayavadi philosophy. So Mayavadi philosophy is actually an eternal philosophy. All these philosophies are eternal. But then when Shankaracharya came, Adi Shankaracharya, when he came to this world, he was given a task to propagate this particular philosophy. So he is actually a devotee, but he played a role of a Mayavadi, and he propagated this theory because that was a task given to him. And we can discuss this in some other sessions, but in this particular session we'll just try to understand this Mayavadi philosophy. So Mayavadi philosophy is nothing but, it says Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. What it means is Brahman is the only truth. So cosmic, Brahman or Nirgun Brahman. Nirgun means it doesn't have any qualities or devoid of any form. So sometimes it is also called as Avyakta. Avyakta means there is no form. It is devoid of, or it is free of any form. So that is the Brahman. So think it like if we can imagine, it's like a cloud, or it's like a cosmic consciousness which doesn't have any form. Like we see Krishna as a form. So this Brahman doesn't have any form. It's like sky. You can assume it's like a sky. So Brahman is the only truth, and the world is unreal. So according to Mayavad philosophy, Brahma Satya means Brahman is the only Satya, and everything we see around is mithya. It is unreal, and there is ultimately no difference between Brahman and the individual self. So that's what Mayavadis say, that originally the living entity which thinks themselves as individual right now, they were part of Brahman. But once the Brahman comes in contact with the mode of goodness, then whatever is the result is Jagdish. So there are three terms: Jeev, Jagdish and Jagat. Jagat means this world. So when the modes of Sattva Gun interact with Brahman, then what is the result is equal to Jagdish, or the goodness means that it is Ishvara, or they also call it as Saguna Brahman. So Krishna, they considered it as a Saguna Brahman or Ishvara. And then when Brahman comes in contact with mode of passion, then the result is Jiva, means living entities or us. So when the Brahman comes in contact with mode of passion, and when the Jiva is born out of that, the Jiva thinks itself as individual. But otherwise, this Jiva is actually a Brahman. So that's what he's saying. So there is ultimately no difference between Brahman and individual self. But because this Jiva is covered by this mode of passion, then it is, and that is mode. So all these are called as illusion. So when the Jiva is, or the Nirgun Brahman comes in contact with goodness, then the result is Jagdish. When Nirgun Brahman comes in contact with Rajas or mode of passion, then that is Jiva or the living entity. And when Nirgun Brahman comes in contact with mode of ignorance, then the result is this material world or the Jagat. So all these three, Jiva, Jagdish and Jagat, all of three are illusion or Maya. So this is the Mayavadi philosophy. So the Mayavadi philosophy is all conceptions of duality are false. So this, everything you see over here, according to the Mayavadis, they are all false. according to the Vaishnava philosophy, what we are reading, Bhagavad Gita, it is not false, it is temporary. We see each other, we see objects around us, we see this material world. Everything exists, but it doesn't exist eternally. So that is how we understand this. So all the conceptions of duality are false. That is the conception of Mayavadis. Only reality is oneness. So the goal of the Mayavadi is, from this state one has to go back to Nirgun Brahman and merge with the Nirgun Brahman. That is the goal. So only reality is oneness. So therefore the goal is that the God. So the God actually has taken this form of Jagdish. God has taken the form of Jiva, and God has taken the form of Jagat. So basically, when we merge back with the Brahman, that is called as oneness. So God resumes its original state when it understands that everything around it is Maya, and then we need to go and merge back to the Nirgun Brahman. So this is in essence the Mayavad philosophy. So over here, Krishna, this theory of Mayavad has been refuted by Krishna. How? We'll study this. So the Mayavad theory that after liberation, so liberation means in Maya, according to Mayavadi, is when the Jiva or Jagdish understand that they are covered by, everything is Maya and they are covered by this illusion. So they go and merge back to the Brahman. So that is their liberation. So the Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul separated by covering of Maya or illusion will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Because why these two theories are negated? Because Krishna is saying that in the past also you were individuals, in the present also you are individual, and in the future also you are individual, and you will never cease to exist. Means you will always exist. So therefore, this theory is refuted by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says soul is eternally individual. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of this Lord and the others, and it is confirmed in the Upanishad, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. So since Krishna is beyond illusion, Krishna has also mentioned that. And therefore, whatever has been stated by Krishna is not under illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much even for the future. So he's saying not in the future, never in the future, the soul will merge. He's saying they will remain individual. So right in the beginning, Krishna is refuting that Mayavadi theory. And here some acharyas, specifically Ramanujacharya, in his Gita Bhashya, he has written long purports, and Prabhupada has taken from those purports. And he has given long and very strong refutation of the Mayavad theory. Refutation means you are defeating that theory. So the Mayavadi idea, as we understand, that we are actually all Brahman, and now the Brahman has come under illusion. And when Brahman is under illusion, I think I'm a person, and similarly everyone is thinking himself as a person. When the Brahman comes out of illusion, then what happens? Then the soul, or this the person will merge back into this cosmic consciousness. So this cosmic consciousness is actually Brahman. So it is a question to be asked that somehow or other, or sometimes, Brahman comes under illusion. So this is how a Brahman comes under illusion. That is a question actually Mayavadis, they cannot answer. So if Brahman is everything, then how Brahman comes under illusion? And that's a very important question. But they don't have any answer to that. Anyway, this particular point has been brought up by Shripad Ramanujacharya. So we'll read. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of Krishna is not the spiritual but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Yeah, because Krishna is saying that I was also individual, you are also individual, all the kings are individual. So how it can be material? Because Krishna himself is spiritual. There is no difference between Krishna and his body. So Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. So this is another important point, that the impersonal Brahman, Krishna says that it is his bodily effulgence. In the 14th chapter, Krishna is saying this. So, and it is subordinate to Krishna. Also, the next point is Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scriptures. So this is an important point, that if Krishna is under illusion, then what is the need of studying the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by the Lord himself? A common man with all four defects of human fallibility is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. So we are hearing from Krishna because we understand that Krishna is beyond these four defects. So that's why we study this. The Gita is about such literature. No mundane book compare with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, then the Gita loses its importance. The Mayavadi argue that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional. Conventional means you are just, normal language which we speak. But here a philosophical discussion is going on. So this cannot be conventional. And that it refers to the body. But in the previous verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. Because Arjuna was lamenting. So if Krishna is talking about this plurality in terms of the body, but Krishna has already condemned Arjuna in the previous verse. So why would he bring this same point of individuality of the body? Right? So after condemning the bodily conception of the living entity, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? So here we are not discussing about body actually. Krishna is discussing about soul. Body dies anyway. Therefore, individuality is maintained on the spiritual ground and is thus confirmed by the great acharyas like Sripad, Sri Ramanujacharya and others. So here the discussion is not of the body and it's not conventional. It is in philosophical terms that is happening. And body, the lamentation of the body and discussion of the body has already been condemned in the past verses. The next point is, who can understand spiritual individuality? It is clearly mentioned in many places in Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no bona fide access to this great literature. So somebody who is a devotee only can understand this point of that we are eternally individual. Otherwise it is difficult. That's what this point is talking about. Now, how does a non-devotee approach Srimad Bhagavad Gita? So when they study Bhagavad Gita without understanding or without knowing the importance of becoming a devotee, then the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita remains to them as the analogy which is given below. So let's read it. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. So here we see that a bee is licking a bottle of honey. Honey is inside, bee is outside. So bee cannot taste the honey. One cannot have taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. So if the bottle is closed, the bee cannot taste the honey actually. So in order to taste the honey, the bottle has to be open. Similarly, the mysticism of Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by a devotee. So when we surrender to the Lord, this is a way to understand. When we surrender to the Lord, then this knowledge is actually revealed to us from the heart. Right? And then Krishna opens up all the secrets, and then we can relish the knowledge which is being shared to us. And no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Right? It is given in later on in Gita that one has to be a devotee. Krishna says that because you are my devotee, he tells Arjuna, because you are my devotee and you are non-envious of me, that's why I am giving you this knowledge. So the next point is, nor can Gita be touched by a person who is envy in the very existence of the Lord. So somebody is envious of the Lord cannot understand Gita. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is the most misleading presentation of the whole truth. So once somebody reads the Mayavad interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, then they are doomed. Actually, this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentaries made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of Gita. So Lord Chaitanya says that Mayavad bhasya sunile haya sarvanas. So when you hear the Mayavadi interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, you will be doomed. That's what Lord Chaitanya is saying. So conclusion is, if individuality refers to empirical means empirical evidence is the information received by the means of senses or observation. So if individuality refers to this empirical means the body or in empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord, because the body has to end any day and it is temporary. So there is no need of Lord teaching this message. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is the eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as mentioned above. So the conclusion is, this individuality which has been taught over here or discussed over here is at the platform of soul. It is not at the platform of body. Right? So this is the discussion that we have seen in the purport, and here is in the presentation form, and you can read all this at your convenience. And the theory of Mayavadi, which is a little bit confusing actually. When we read Mayavad philosophy, it is always confusing, and their arguments are also confusing, but Sripad Ramanujacharya, he has systematically refuted. So here is a point, like for example over here, individual soul is separated or broken from the original consciousness by covering of Maya or illusion. So refutation is given here by Sripad Ramanujacharya that, but we know that the soul is unbreakable. This comes in the later chapters. So how it can break? So that's the point. So similarly, there are all these different points which has been refuted, and then finally it is concluded that the failure of Mayavadi philosophy, that it is, if you turn to Mayavadi interpretation, if you read Mayavadi interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, then what happens is, our experience will be like it's a bee licking the bottle of honey from outside. So basically they are not going to taste the nectar of the message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So with this we'll stop here and we'll continue our discussion on soul, because Krishna is going to speak in more details about the spirituality of the individuals. So right now it is talked about the individuality and eternality of the individuals, but then in the next verse is going to talk about the spirituality of the individuals. So we'll continue with the discussion and we'll stop here. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.